Hi, my name is Dr. Roxanne George, and I am your host today for the Radiant Health Dialogue series on breast cancer on HippocratesDocs.com in collaboration with PCRM, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And today we have an exciting topic, I know one you guys have all been waiting to hear, on how to optimize your weight on a whole food plant-based diet. And today we are joined by Benjamin and Susanna Alter, and they are naturopath doctors who have their own practice out in Colorado. Welcome, you guys. How are you doing?
Thanks for having us. We're doing great today.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Thanks for joining us and taking the time. So I'd like to start off on just giving you an opportunity to talk about how you guys found this way of helping your patients and a little bit about yourself.
Great question. Well, yeah, it's really interesting because in naturopathic medical school, we actually get a lot of training in nutrition. I think over 125 hours in our curriculum. And although we spend so much time studying nutrition, we weren't really introduced to whole food plant-based nutrition until one teeny little lesson in cardiology where we heard about the research that whole food plant-based diet can actually reverse atherosclerosis and heart disease. And from that point, we both kind of took it upon ourselves to do a little bit of extra research and started, reading How Not to Die, the work of Dr. Greger, the work of Dr. Furman, all the plant-based leaders out there. And we're just amazed at how much scientific literature there is out there supporting a whole food plant-based diet.
Yeah, and I was a vegan before medical school. And funny enough, entering naturopathic medical school, it's much more of a paleo mindset amongst our colleagues and also most professors and clinicians in the naturopathic profession. And the whole entire paleo mindset and philosophy didn't rub off on me. But after my first year of medical school, I did start reintroducing animal products into my world. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's always, for a long time, been a part of me that knows that for so many reasons, I want to eat more plants and less animals. And then once I really understood how to adopt a quote unquote vegan diet in the most healthy way, which is a whole food plant-based diet, and how to nourish myself completely and fully on a whole food plant-based diet, which is kind of maybe challenging to do for a lot of people because of the inherent low calorie density of these foods and the fact that we need to eat so much more, which is what we're excited to be talking about. But anyways, as I really, focused on my own health and well-being through a whole food plant-based nutrition, naturally it just became the focus of my interest in clinical practice.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's funny how, at least you guys got that many hours in nutrition. I can't say, we were learning about scurvy in medical school, and I don't remember the last time we had a case of scurvy in the hospital. That's about all the nutritional training we got. So that's amazing that you guys got at least that one study on reversing heart disease. So
yeah, it was literally one bullet point on a PowerPoint slide. And I was like, and then it was back into the Mediterranean diet, this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wait a second, that just said preventing and reversing heart disease. And now we're just going to go on with our lives.
It's like, that seems key because most people don't think you can reverse heart disease.
And this is the number one killer in our world after all. Shouldn't we talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So today I love this topic because I'm sure a lot of people and our viewers out there want to know how they can eat more and weigh less. So tell us more about that.
Okay. Well, the first fact to really point out is that plant foods are naturally less calorically dense compared to animal foods. So when we look at a full plate, if you were to go to a restaurant and let's say your friend ordered a regular burger, cheeseburger with, a side of French fries, and you, being the healthy plant-based eater that you are, you get a black bean burger with a side of, a baked potato without any butter, without any cream cheese or sour cream or anything like that. If you were to look at those meals side by side, it's about the same volume. But the truth is that the plate with the cheeseburger and the French fries contains so many more calories.
So much more energy.
And yeah, so much more energy in the form of calories than that plate with the bean burger. So in a way, we always say when we eat out at restaurants, we get a little gypped because, we're not getting nearly as much fuel for our body as we actually need. So that's one thing to really point out, is that when we switch to a whole food plant-based diet, we actually need to increase the volume of food that we eat, because the fresh fruits, the whole grains, the potatoes, the vegetables, they simply just don't have as much calories as our animal-based foods do.
Yeah, and another reason for that is that our plant-based foods, our whole plant-based foods, are higher in carbohydrates and naturally lower in fats. And carbohydrates, 1 gram of carbohydrates contains 4 calories of energy, and 1 gram of fat contains 9 calories of energy. So if we're naturally eating a lower fat diet, it means that we need to eat more grams of our carbohydrate rich whole plant foods that we know and love on a whole food plant-based diet, like our starchy vegetables and our intact whole grains and legumes and fruits and stuff like that.
So what do you tell your patients that are afraid of carbohydrates?
We love to educate our patients and clients as to how carbohydrates are converted into cellular energy within every cell of our body. So, I'm definitely a biochemistry nerd, and the process of glycolysis and oxidative phosphorylation to create cellular energy within the tens of thousands of mitochondria within each one of our cells. We need to look no further than basic biochemistry to understand how carbohydrates are simply nothing to fear and everything to embrace, especially when we're eating this sort of way.
Yeah, so if you want to sort of decipher between why the carbohydrates in whole food plant-based options are different than our cereals and crackers and breads and stuff.
Yeah, well, it all comes down to nutrient density, and the carbohydrates that come in the form of whole plant foods come with lots of nutrients, vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients, as well as fiber, as well as water. And all of these things offset the potential oxidative stress or kind of quote unquote metabolic damage that can happen if we're simply metabolizing empty calories. So white bread, white flour, white sugar, the processed foods that have little micronutrients and vitamins in them, we like to see those as kind of just empty calories. So they're going to be turning the engine of the metabolism within our mitochondria, but there aren't any of the vitamins and minerals to make sure that engine is operating cleanly and we're not creating a bunch of exhaust and waste that can cause a lot of oxidative damage and inflammation in the body.
Right, absolutely. So, we get to have those calories and then have the packaging around it that helps to deal with those stressors that may come, in our body. So I love talking about that concept of the package, right? The package matters. So if you can delve more into how you kind of guide your patients on changing their diets to these, calorie sort of low calorie density foods and then high nutrient density foods. So what are some of your methods that you implement with your patients?
Yeah, well, I think one of the first big mindset shifts that we support our clients in having is to really embrace those carbohydrate-rich plant foods, because many people come from a history of trying to restrict carbohydrates to try to lose weight. And so it can be hard. It can be really hard for people to all of a sudden realize that they can eat plenty of fruit, they can eat plenty of potatoes. So really coaching them in overcoming that carbohydrate fear is a big first step that we take with a lot of clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, you know, we say, you know, the title of this is Eat More to Weigh Less or something like that, right? But the fact of the matter is that's the only way to sustainably and healthfully weigh less, is to eat more. So it's not an option. It's like the proven path. And what ends up happening is when we fuel ourselves on these, you know, carbohydrate-rich foods that are naturally high in fiber, high in water, that fuel our cells optimally. They are naturally lower in calorie, but that doesn't mean that we should operate in a calorie deficit. We should still be eating and nourishing ourselves with plenty of fuel, because a long-term calorie deficit is actually scientifically proven to slow down our metabolism, which over the long run, you know, we want our metabolism to serve us in creating energy, especially when we're preventing or reversing disease. So we want to be eating a lot. We want to be eating a lot of our carbohydrate-rich foods. We want to meet our energy needs, energy requirements on a whole food plant-based diet. And really the only way to do that while optimizing health and losing weight is by embracing the potatoes and the whole grains and the legumes and the fruit.
And have you found that's one of the reasons, you know, long-term wise, you know, people that go more plant-based are more likely to maintain their weight loss because they actually feel full, right? Is that one of what the studies have shown?
Definitely. Really, the whole food plant-based diet is the only diet that's been studied to lead to optimization of weight sustainably without any caloric restriction at all. So the subjects in that study, they were eating to their heart's content of whole plant foods, and they still lost weight.
Yeah.
So definitely, it's really, you know, when we talk about sustainable weight loss, this is the way, because we're still fueling the body with all the energy that we need. So people are less likely to give into cravings or, you know, start eating their old foods or going into their old habits again. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of breast cancer, what are the risks of, you know, weight gain and higher BMIs, obesity with breast cancer? I mean, you know, one of the goals we're reaching for, of course, is weight loss, but why is it so important for our patients that either have family members with breast cancer or are just trying to treat breast cancer?
Yeah, well, you know, obesity and weight gain is associated with all sorts of chronic diseases, including cancer as well, and specifically breast cancer. That's just the science in terms of the risk factors for breast cancer, and the reasons for that. You know, there's many, but one thing has to do with the insulin resistance that is so commonly associated with weight gain. Obviously, we know insulin resistance to be most associated with the development of type 2 diabetes, but insulin resistance plays a big part in the development and progression of cancer as well. So increasing insulin sensitivity, and that's one part of optimizing our metabolism, is having increased optimized insulin sensitivity. That helps to prevent breast cancer. And the other thing that comes along with our whole food plant-based diet naturally is we're eating the foods that are boosting our immune system, keeping our immune system on guard and active and ready to pounce at those acute pathogens that might come into our bodies. And in the long term, you know, our immune system is on guard and cleaning up the inevitable creation of cancer cells that are going to be circulating within the system. So having all of the vitamins and minerals and micronutrients that fuel and power our intelligent immune system is just kind of a wonderfully appreciated side effect of fueling ourselves on whole plant foods.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to kind of throw a scenario at you guys. If you had a patient that unfortunately just recently got diagnosed with breast cancer, what would you say they needed to maybe do right, in the next week? What would be their first sort of, homework assignment, or, this is kind of how, you've been diagnosed. I'm so sorry. Let's try to make some changes. How would you guys make that change?
That's a great question. And we love to focus on what we call the foundation of health, which include 7 essential determinants of health, one of which is food. All of these essential determinants of health can be fortified and optimized. And most importantly, we can strip away any obstacles that lie in the foundation that might, create a weakened foundation, whether it's processed food or animal products in the category of food. But as we clean out the foundation, we create an opportunity for the body to heal itself fully, without the addition of other therapeutics, without the addition of other pharmaceuticals or surgery or more invasive interventions, which are, have their time and place. But, speaking to cancer, the recurrence of cancer is so common because even if we have surgery to resect a tumor, the recurrence is so common because we don't change the terrain from which the cancer came. So we still have a cancer creating environment within the body. So focusing on the foundation of health is really the homework assignment, the ultimate homework assignment for each and every human being. And that includes food, first and foremost, air, like the air we're breathing, and also the quality of our breathing, our breath, water, the water we're drinking, and the quality of our hydration status. Movement, nothing vigorous or extreme is necessary, but just having not a sedentary lifestyle, a lifestyle that includes movement, and then resting and sleeping, giving our body an opportunity to regenerate and repair itself in that capacity. And then there's all the what we call the metaphysical determinants of health, our thinking, our relationships, and our connection with our life's purpose. So focusing in on those foundational determinants of health is a lifelong process, and what creates the opportunity for our body to heal itself and to extend the life in our years and the years in our life.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that. Oh my God, that could just be a whole summit in itself. So
it is. It is in our work. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So second scenario, we have a patient who in the last 3 months has changed their lifestyle to their interpretation, or, a mostly plant-based lifestyle, and maybe they're gaining weight or they're not seeing the changes they thought they would be seeing. So they are getting, discouraged. What kind of changes would you recommend for them?
Yeah, and this is a scenario that we see a lot in our practice, actually. And the most common issues that we find when people transition to a whole food plant-based diet that really prevents them from achieving their health goals or their weight goals is, one, sometimes they're still including quite a bit of oil or other very processed foods. And so making sure that those are out, that's kind of one of the first big ones. Because, as people increase their carbohydrate intake, but they're still eating a lot of, oil or processed foods, that's going to actually put a little bit of stress on the metabolism and might prevent that weight loss from happening. The second we see is that they're still 100% whole food plant-based, but they're eating a lot of nuts and seeds. They're eating a lot of avocados, a lot of coconut, things like that. Still a lot of really high fat foods in the overall diet. And then the third most common thing that we see that can be one of the biggest obstacles is that they're actually not eating enough. They're still in a really, low calorie deficit. And so what that does is it really prevents the metabolic engine from turning on and, revving up, which is really what's needed in order to burn fat and lose weight. So I'd say those are the most three common scenarios we see. And so we really encourage people to, stay 100% whole food, plant-based, focus on the carbohydrate rich foods, and have those nuts and seeds and avocados more as kind of a condiment in their meals. And then to work on making sure that they're eating enough to meet their caloric needs.
To that, I would add, a lot of people who have a history of chronic dieting or just navigating the healthcare system, they carry a lot of anxiety and stressful thinking about their health and about their eating. So another thing that we really focus on is supporting the body and being in a state where healing can actually happen most optimally. And that is, what we know as to be a parasympathetic nervous system state, one that allows for the optimal digestion, metabolism, detoxification within the body. So that is a state that is our inherent default operating mode. But a lot of people over the course of life, daily life, there's just kind of this baseline buzz of stress, and that just becomes their normal. So we really find it fundamentally important to support the individual and ourselves, and it's a work in progress at each and every day of reconnecting with what our true nature is, which is a peaceful, healing, self-healing organism and present in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, imagine the mind and body are connected, right? It's such a concept for some of us. So, I mean, for being a pediatrician, I know children in my practice, my patients are just running on empty sometimes. It's sort of this fast-paced lifestyle. And if you're not doing 14 different activities, you're not doing enough. And so it does become this sort of normal, right? This is our new sense of normal. And it's it doesn't have to be that way. And it doesn't optimize our health. So getting back to the metabolism side of things, is a slower metabolism something that people should just expect later on in life? With age, it's just going to be, sorry, shaking his head.
Oh, yeah.
That people have to, just expect and then learn how to deal with, or obviously not. So tell us.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of things in our society that are normal, like, high cholesterol is normal and dying prematurely of a heart attack is normal, but that obviously doesn't mean that it's healthy. And a slowing down of the metabolism and the consequential weight gain is also normal, but that by no means means that, that's healthy. So one thing that can contribute over the course of our lifetime to a sluggishness or a slowing of the metabolism is a number of things. The big thing that is to somewhat kind of invisible and out of our control is the bioaccumulation of environmental toxins that can happen. And as these toxins accumulate within the body, within the liver, within adipose tissue and fat cells, our body responds in a protective sort of way by slowing down the metabolism, because we don't want to release and recirculate these potentially toxic metabolites into the system that can cause more damage. So that's one thing that over the course of our lifetime on planet Earth, we invariably are going to be exposed to more and more things, whether they're from our food, our air, or our water. So one thing that a whole food plant-based diet really can provide us is, for one, we're eating low on the food chain, so we're not exposing ourselves to the PCBs and the heavy metals and the other chemical toxicants that accumulate in the fat of animals. Then when humans eat animal fat, then we kind of bear the brunt of that environmental insult. But the other thing is that whole plant foods contain all of the vitamins and minerals and all the things that we love and appreciate that fuel and optimize our detoxification pathways that are always running and always happening within the body. So as we take in less stuff from our environment while also nourishing our body and doing what it can do, we support kind of a natural detoxification that allows our metabolism to be fully functional for the extent of our lives.
Yeah. As you're saying that, I just picture this, people walking with like a bag on their back, and it's just all this sludge and heavy stuff and toxins, and it's just, weighing them down the more we're adding to it. And every day, whether it's our toxins from our the eggs we ate or the bacon and the processed meats, especially, terrible. And it's just sort of like, and it's such a heavy weight on our metabolism. So you can imagine after decades of eating this way, how much stress it puts on the body. But I think it's also amazing how quickly the body will change. Changing our diets to this whole food, plant-based type of eating, the body actually heals itself pretty quickly. Have you guys seen any success, or I'm sure you have, but talk to us about your success stories with some of your patients that have kind of made these big changes?
Yeah, well, one who comes to mind immediately is someone who had been eating a vegetarian diet for, I think, about 10 years. She had lost, I think, like 50 pounds just on the vegetarian diet. And then she wanted to take it to the next level. So she started eating a plant-based diet, but still had oils in it. And I think she had lost another, 20 pounds on that, but she still had an additional 60 pounds she wanted to lose. And so when we started working with her, she was just a little bit confused. How do I make plant-based eating work for me? I had seen all this weight loss, but I've been plateaued now for, I think, a year or two or so. And so we focused on a few things with her. We focused on, first of all, taking out the oils and making sure that she wasn't eating too much of the nuts, seeds, avocados.
Well, I would say that we focused on educating her to have the insights that she wanted to take out the oils. We can't have the power to go in and throw away oils in people's kitchen.
That's true. That's true. Exactly. We also, we walked her through a nutritional analysis where she could see how much she was eating in terms of how many calories she was getting, how many vitamins and minerals she was getting in a day. And she could see herself that she wasn't getting enough. And so slowly, she worked on increasing the amount that she was eating. So she was finally meeting her caloric needs. And it was like magic. All of a sudden, her metabolism turned on.
She ate more and she started to weigh less.
Exactly. And on top of that, we were also, working on supporting her liver health and detoxification pathways. But now she's, I think, 15 pounds away from her target weight. And she's just thrilled. She's just thrilled because she was losing hope when she was at that plateau for so long. So yeah, that was a fun case.
Yeah, we love those success stories. Have you had any experience with patients with breast cancer specifically and weight loss, or?
Definitely patients with history of breast cancer and wanting to prevent the recurrence of breast cancer. The treatment of breast cancer nutritionally, we don't treat disease with food, but we support people in nourishing themselves so that they can navigate the treatment that they so choose. And I'll tell you, I have had experience with people who have been supported nutritionally with the strong foundation of health, and then they go on to receive the pharmaceutical treatments of chemotherapy, and the people, I've heard stories of people going to receive their chemotherapy infusions, and when they go into the clinic, the nurses would ask, who are you here visiting? There's no way that you could possibly be a cancer patient because they have so much vitality and energy and their immune system is active and thriving. Because let's face it, the thing that most often, I hope it's okay that I can say this, the thing that most often leads to people's demise with cancers is the treatment and the harsh treatments that are so, that really become toxic within people's systems. So when we fortify the foundation of health and allow the body to be resilient through the cancer treatment, that's when people do really well.
Yeah, it's almost like their systems are not distracted by the other toxins that are going in, right? So it's like you're already at 90% capacity of toxin removal, ability, and then, you add in another 40% of these, chemotherapy, therapeutics or toxins. It's almost like they're maxed out, right? So how can the body deal with that kind of load? And I've definitely seen that kind of results as well. So, so we just have a few more minutes here. So I always like to kind of give you guys an opportunity for like final thoughts and summing up everything. So if you have any sort of, one-liners or one final thought that you could let our viewers know about.
It's funny, the one thing that came to mind for me was a little saying that we say to help our clients get over the fear of increasing carbohydrates in their diet. And that is that if a human cell was to walk into a restaurant and order something off of the menu, order its favorite dish, it would order carbs or glucose or whatever you want to call it, but just remember that these carbohydrates really are the cell's preferred fuel source, and that in order to reverse disease we need to have a lot of energy, and that means we need to be fueling the cells with its preferred fuel source. So don't be afraid of those carbohydrate rich foods. They really are the crucial factor in making a whole food plant-based diet sustainable and also supporting that natural production of healing energy.
Yeah, and I've always joked around, like I've been thinking about saving money so I can put a big billboard on the interstate highway and say that all whole plant foods contain fat, protein, and carbohydrates. So carbs are not a food group. Protein is not a food group. Fat is not a food group. All whole plant foods, even a banana. We think about a banana as just being this sugary piece of fruit. Bananas have omega-3 fatty acids, and a lot of protein, and of course a lot of great nourishing carbohydrates. So all whole plant foods contain all of the macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, and fatty acids, as well as fiber, water, and micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and the healing phytochemicals that synergistically support the body in doing what it naturally does best.
Which is heal.
Which is healing.
The whole
and thriving.
package, as we said, the whole package.
I love that. Yes, we get out of the body's way, it wants to heal itself. So that's amazing. Thank you guys for spending this time with us. Let some of our viewers know where they can get in contact with you or reach out to you, or any resources you have available for them.
Great. Yeah. So you can find our website is www.alter.health. And we have a lot of fun free events in our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group called the Plant-Based and Stress-Free Facebook group, where we host a free whole food plant-based challenge about every 6 to 8 weeks or so. It's a really fun week. We dive into lots of information and education about how to really transition into whole food plant-based eating.
Yeah. And,
anything else?
And then I guess that's really it. That's really it. Our Instagram is alter.health, at alter.health. But that's about it.
That's where you can find us.
Yeah, that's awesome, guys. I love that you guys do those programs. So I really enjoyed my time with you guys today. Thank you so much for joining us again. So if you want more from the Alters, Doctors Alters, check them out on their Facebook group and their website. And we hope that you guys all enjoyed this interview today. And we hope that to bring you more radiant health through our other Radiant Health Dialogue series interviews. Have a great day, guys. Bye.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye.